Hello and welcome to the Creative Kobold. Today we are going to take a look at this. This is the miniature set for the board game Darkest Night, and I have seen a lot of people recommending this as a cheap way to get a bunch of miniatures for D&D. So, as you can see, there are a whole bunch of miniatures here, and they are in a much larger box than necessary. Here are all the miniatures. So this is 30 miniatures. Now I got my copy of this from Grimfield Games here in Norway. Excellent, friendly local gaming store, and you can also order from them online, which is nice. So let's have a closer look at all these miniatures. Just looking at these, first thing that I notice is that they are not very high quality. I will say they are in fact a bit low quality. They're not the worst I've seen, but even though there are details here, the cuts for the sculpt is very shallow, so can't really do much with it. You won't get washes to go in every nook and cranny here for a lot of these details. And that kind of sucks, because that means the details are basically wasted. The other thing that I notice is that they have very small heads. The thing about miniatures is that they are not true to life proportion wise, because since we need to be able to see the various features on them, they tend to have a bit misproportioned anatomy in a way that looks good, but if you were to actually measure it and stuff, you would find out that the proportions are really weird. Most notably is that the heads are generally quite a bit larger than they should be, and there's also generally much more thickness to the various body parts. There's basically more girth, and these ones are missing all of that. They have basically proportioned these to be more like actual humans. I'm not going to say that it's perfect proportion-wise, but it's probably more true to life than most miniatures. So I'm not very happy about these, to be honest. That said, there are some interesting designs. Going through these from top left to bottom right. First one we have is a priest or wizard looking guy with a staff that has a twirl on the top. He's got quite large bit of flesh on the head there that needs to be cut away, but otherwise seems like a decent looking spellcaster. Then there is another spellcaster looking person. Oh my, that hand looks horrible. That's just a lump. That must be the worst hand I have ever seen in miniatures. Okay. Otherwise though, she looks cool, but nothing really special about her. But sometimes that's kind of what you want anyway. Next up is this person. She's got some very light armor and a whip. Really not much to say. Let's just get to the next one. This looks like a crazy person, probably a spellcaster of some kind, probably a pyromaniac. Like, he seriously looks crazy. Then we have some chivalric knight, it seems. Got a nice long flowing cape there. That's actually pretty good, and I really like his trousers. That's good. I wish this one had a better cut on the armor there, because those details are very nice. Yeah, this is definitely the best one so far. It's got some nice details. Here we have a cleric of sorts. A staff with a holy symbol, and he's got his vestments on, and got a pope hat, big cross on his front there, which is something I'm not too fond of. I don't like real life imagery in my games. I don't know if this happens to anyone else, but to me that kind of pulls me out of the immersion of being in that fantasy world and brings me back to reality. So I try to exclude that. Here we have what looks like some sort of ranger. She's got a... You know, it just looks like a stick, but I think it's supposed to be a spear, but the spear tip is just so bad. There's definitely a transition between the normal stick and the top part, and I can't imagine what else it would be. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be a spear, but it's impossible to tell. Here we have a pixie lady. Got very nice wings. They have a bit of that insect-like look to them, which is cool. Her skirt seems to be made of either fur or leaves. She's holding a staff with a sphere on one end and a hook on the other. This is a rather nice one. I just wish the quality was better. Here's a monk, and monk characters are generally very welcome in my collection. Again, I'm not sure I will use this guy, but I like the general design of him. Just your classic robed monk character. Yeah, you can see that like the bottom of the robe here is just large flat piece. I generally don't mind that as much. You can just paint that black and it'll look fine. I think they probably could have done a little bit better with this. Let the front part of the robe go a bit lower, or perhaps concave the bottom part there a little bit, but it's not a very big problem. I actually often prefer that, because some miniatures, and this is a thing I have experienced mostly with WizKids and Hero Forge, is that you can end up with extremely hard to reach areas to paint, possibly impossible to reach. It's generally not a huge problem. In most cases you won't be able to properly see in there, or it's very unlikely that it will be visible, but oftentimes it still is. So here's an interesting character. He's got a staff with something on it. Oh, I think those are supposed to be scales. So I think this is a merchant, and I think he's holding a potion in his other hand. Large sack on his back. I like that he's got a bit of a belly. Definitely one of the more interesting characters, interesting designs so far. Then we have another character with a large rucksack, and this one sort of looks like it's a seat. So I think possibly he's meant to carry children around? I don't know. He's also got what looks like a sort of halberd, or some sort of polearm. Perhaps not a halberd specifically, but there is an axe part, it looks like, and a little spear part on the top there. He's got some weird thing on his right side of the head. Not quite sure what that's supposed to be. And he seems to be holding a compass or something. Yeah, it's a weird one, and the bad quality makes it hard to understand what is what, but that's how it is. Here's a fighter with a spear-like weapon. He has his sword on his back, and he's got a large shoulder pad on one side. Now here's, you can see there is just this large area of plastic that's not supposed to be anything on the inside of his arms and the spear there, and it's super visible, not very not particularly pretty to look at, and when you paint that up, that's not going to look good at all. Yeah, I don't like this mini. I think the idea for the mini is good, but that thing kind of ruined it. Here is another ranger type character, this one with a bow. Oh yeah. Okay, so you can see it's meant to have the feathers on the back, and it's meant to have the arrow tip, but it's just a blob on the front there. There's no actual sharp tip, just a blob. Otherwise, not much to say about this one. Actually a bit... Listen, this is not a very positive review at all, and I'm sorry about that, but yeah, not all reviews are going to be good. Of course, you might not be as sensitive to the quality of these miniatures as I am. You prioritize and value things differently from one another. If you think these are okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, I think there are much better minis to get at the same price point out there. But let's keep going. This next miniature seems to be a sort of knight character. She's got a sword in one hand and a shield in another. She's got a bit of a boob plate, but far from the worst I've seen. It's completely fine. I really dig the really long hair though. That's cool. That's very cool. I like that little detail. That's like another character I wish would just be better quality. We got this brigand looking guy. He does not look like a good character. He looks like he's about to murder someone. We got a bit of the same thing that we had with that warrior earlier, where there's just this area of plastic between the arm and the weapon he's holding and the body. I don't think it's that prominent in this one as it is in the other character, but it is still at a point where it is very visible, so not too fond of it. On the other hand, I do really like his demeanor, and that flowing cloak of his is really cool. Alright, so the next one seems to be a falconer. He's got a stick with a falcon sitting on it. He's got like falconer's gloves, bald, with a nice beard, and he's got some sort of metal armor, it seems like, and wielding a sword and carrying a small backpack. Interesting character. Funny thing about this one is that it actually looks much better proportioned as a miniature than all the other minis so far. His head is slightly larger, his arms are much thicker. Overall, this is a much better miniature than the rest. It also looks like an interesting character. Okay, we are back to the tiny heads again. This lady looks like a sorcerer or cleric or something. Got a nice staff and also in nice dress. Could also just be some royalty or something like that. Maybe there's nothing magical about the staff, maybe it's just a royal scepter. But yeah, again, all the tiny details disappear in a low quality of the sculpt, which is a shame, because I think this would have been a fantastic mini to have. Now we have another knightly character. This looks to be a woman in heavy armor, similar to the one earlier, but with a spear and a shield, and the helmet got these wings on the sides, which is very cool. She's also got this long hair that seems to be in one long braid, basically. A very cool design, but again, not even gonna mention it. Now this is definitely some sort of sorceress. She's got wind billowing her clothes, very dramatic. That said, I'm not too fond of the design, just her body seems very square. It's weird. It's like completely flat and then hitting corners and then completely flat on the sides and then hitting corners and then completely flat on the back and then hitting corners, and yeah, it's just a square. So yeah, not much to do about that. Next up we have another knightly character. It's got interesting, more square-shaped shield and a sword in the other hand, and the sword has no... Wow, the sword has the tiniest handle ever, with no pommel. Yeah, good luck fighting with that, I guess. Nice flowing cape. Again, sadly, the Christian cross on the back. If it had been another symbol as a detail there, I would have liked that a lot. But yeah, not much more to say about that. And here we have another character, this yet another soldier slash knight. He's got his sword upside down in one hand, and I think he's holding... It's so hard to see what it's supposed to be, but I think it's supposed to be his helmet. I think it's just a blob in his hand, but I think it's supposed to be his helmet. The design of the armor looks pretty cool, but yeah, that's about it. Next up we have another sorceress type character. She's having a bad hair day. She's got some very... She's got the thickest pieces of cloth billowing around her. That's so thick it does not look like cloth, it looks like steel bars or something. It looks like part of a railway track is bent around her. Oh well. Got a very weird looking thing at the top of her staff there too. Yeah, not too fond of this one. I get the idea, but yeah. And also one of the tiniest heads so far. Next up we have this wizard or druid looking character. Very simple clothing. He's got a beard, I think. Yeah, he's got a beard. It's kind of it's hard to tell with the terrible quality. Staff looks like it's got a fun little design on top of it, but yeah, not much more to say about this. He kind of looks like a forest hobo. Alright, we have another either priest or wizard looking guy. He's got a book open and he's got a staff that sort of looks like a shepherd's staff. Got a nice little messenger bag on, at his hip, which is cool. I really like that long beard. And he's very gaunt in his face. It's nice to be able to at least see that. Here's what I believe to be the big bad. I think this is a Necromancer type character. Yeah, he's got evil looking armor, evil looking horned helmet slash crown, evil skull spear slash staff. Yeah, he just looks evil. He's got large spikes on his heels. That's a weird choice. His heel spikes are basically as long as the front of his feet. Well, it's an interesting character. This one is much larger than the others. This guy is 45mm tall. So he's tall compared to most minis, which are usually between 28 and 32mm. But that basically makes him quite functional as a large humanoid. Alright, next up, wow, we have a bard playing on his lute. Interestingly, he's got a cape, so it's not a cloak, it's just for flair, basically. So that's actually a fun detail. But he otherwise seems extremely generic. Next up is this lady. Again, cleric, priest, or wizard, sorcerer, some kind of magic user. Her clothes seems to be falling off. She's barely keeping them up with her arms. Good thing she's got a bra underneath there. Got very long hair, swirling about. But yeah, not much more to say. Now we have a character holding what I suppose is a lantern, and he's got a tabard on, and that's all there is to him. Second to last mini, this guy, spellcaster of some sort, he's got staff, but a sort of pierced crescent moon type design on the top. Got a cloak on him, doesn't look like he's wearing armor. Not really much else to say. Final one, this character is obviously another spellcaster. Again, he's got a staff. This one is the only one that has a design going down the length of the staff and not just a top piece. So it has that as well. This one has some swirly thing that goes down the entire thing. Well, that's fun. Yeah. His hand is just a lump. Okay, so in my honest opinion, this set is not really worth money for me. I think there are much better options out there at the same price that'll get you much higher quality miniatures. The quality of these miniatures are so low that I can't really recommend them. Like if you get it for $20 and you don't have anything else and you have $20 to spend and you're not that worried about the quality, you just want some miniatures, then you know it's fine. If you are a bit more quality aware, then you're not going to go for this one. Also, they have terrible mold lines, which is not unique to this set, but it's just an extra negative on the whole quality thing. A lot of extra work to just remove all of those terrible mold lines. So yeah, that's it, I guess. This was the Darkest Night miniature set. Actually quite disappointed, but that is how it is sometimes. It's probably really good for use with the actual board game, but I wouldn't use it in D&D, and even then it's all depending on whether you actually need these miniatures. I think there are probably 3 out of 30 miniatures in this set that I would use. It's the Falconer, it's the Evil Necromancer, and maybe the Monk. And that's it. 3 out of 30, not really a good ratio. So that's my review of this set. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you like these minis, there's nothing wrong with that. But for me personally, these just aren't worth the money. I would like to hear your thoughts on these minis, so put them in the comments below. And as always, like and subscribe and ring that notification bell. And I'll see you in the next video.